Well, hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here today, Carmen Bowman with the Wyoming Culture Change Coalition and our monthly webinar. This topic was actually requested, and so we're going to dive into it, family councils and other ideas to engage families. And I have two guests with me today, and I think I'll introduce them as they come. So Kathy Laurenhue will share ideas after me, and I'll introduce her right before then. And then Paula Bowling is a family member with us today, everyone. And I'll introduce her better. Respond. So when I'm done, Kathy, you get to respond to the ideas I share. I'll respond to yours. And then at the very end, Paula would like you to respond to any and all and whatever else you think of, Paula. Okay?
You bet. Yep.
So family councils, they are a good thing. I think we all know that. Some regulations require them. It tends to be memory care assisted living regs, not so much nursing home regs. But regardless, they are considered a best practice. They're part of the culture change movement. And I'm showing you here, everyone, the Artifacts of Culture Change measurement tool. It was developed in 2006, and then we did a 2.0 February of 2021. And I just want to point out a few artifacts, a few culture change practices that are on the tool will be also highlighted today. And a family council is one of them. And so I'm not the expert on family councils, but I just sort of heard a lot and collected ideas. And to be honest, the way I figure is there's about four big points with family councils if you really want to get families involved. One is taking authority. So, announce that at the next family council meeting, a new name will be chosen or something will be decided, and then it really has more of an impetus that, oh, I better get there. I would like to be a part of that decision. Also, you might consider making it more of a support group. I've just come to see that people tend to like the idea of meeting other people who are in the same position. So it can be hard to have a mom, dad, or whomever living in a nursing home. Why not? So that's just an idea. And then also really helpful education, probably education that is kind of, what's the word? The word would be enticing, maybe not the same old education, enticing new, really interesting education that people actually want to take the effort to go learn about. And on that note, the education might very well be ideas for spending time meaningfully with your relative who lives here. And I'm using my words wisely, everyone. We're interested in language and the culture change movement. And I'd love to know what others think of this, Paula, particularly you. There's nothing wrong with loved one, but sometimes it's actually not the right word. I've had people tell me. And sometimes it's a friend you're talking about, or, it's just interesting. So I love saying the right word, like if it's your relative or a friend. And then notice I'm also not saying visitor, and I'm going to bring that up again, not paying a visit. There's nothing wrong with that, but I want to challenge everyone with a thought coming up from someone else. And then, what do you think? Always serve really good food. Oh, here it is. So Anne Basting is an author and a gerontologist and also a leader in our movement. Her specialty is the performing arts, actually. And she wrote this book called, get this, Forget Memory. And she means it, like, forget about it. We put too much emphasis on whether or not people remember stuff. And I really appreciate this because I myself do not remember a lot of things. I've always had a poor memory. And so she begs the question, when did cognition become the standard? Why do we judge everything on whether someone can remember or not? Why is it so heavily considered? And she points out we're social beings. Like, we have a social memory that's different than a factual memory. We have an emotional memory. And therefore, she suggests that we focus on the present moment anyway, all of us together. And she has ideas then for all of us to be thinking of how to create a better life right now for people. And I love how she also says, think about re-knitting yourself into that person's life and vice versa, re-knitting your mom into your life, the person living in the nursing home. And so my favorite example of this, everyone, is let's say a daughter of someone living in a nursing home was going to go home and paint her nails. What if she did that with her mom? You know, it's like a picture of living life together, trying to just live life together more. Another artifact, another practice in our movement is that we actually treat and talk about family members as care partners with the idea that we are all equal. No one is more important than the other. This comes from the Eden Alternative. They actually use that word in 3 different ways: employee care partners, family care partners, as well as the elder care partner. And just notice the value of that kind of language. Language has power. We can use it to our advantage. That's an example that it reminds we are each a partner. And so that's actually another practice. What can you do to really, really, truly create partnerships and never view like the family member coming down the hall as the difficult family member? And this is a little bit tricky, everyone, but sadly, in the institutional model, this happens, you know, where perhaps staff members see someone coming and they're like, uh-oh, here comes the difficult family member. And I like to bring this up because think about this. If any of us lived in a nursing home, wouldn't we want a quote difficult family member to come and advocate for us and to speak up when something's not right? And so we've got to stop looking at it that way. This is a care partner who cares, who's known this person much longer than we have. And then I recommend as team members, we own up to our failures. We be proactive. We go towards the family member instead of hide. And we say, hey, we know we messed up yesterday. How are things going today? Another idea for those of us working in the field is to give lots of education, be an ongoing educator. A colleague of mine says, give families knowledge, and we turned it into gift families with knowledge. I just love that. And families tend to be behind us on the learning curve. So I have an example. We used to use those bed and chair alarms, and then we them. But families didn't have the same education that we did, so they still kind of hang on to those alarms. It's like a crutch, we call it that. And see, that's because they just don't have as much knowledge yet about these things. So think about helping people to catch up with the learning curve. And let's just be honest, it's okay to say it out loud. A lot of family members are dealing with a lot of guilt. And that is not that's not a bad thing. It's just the truth. And so why don't we, again, think of that support, maybe actually discussions on how to deal with guilt and an understanding and empathy, if a family member says, take my mom to every activity, whether she wants to go or not, that's not a mean family member. That's a family member who feels guilty and wants the best for their mom. And then we got to work that out. To me, it sort of seems like perhaps the resident is doing okay, but maybe it's the family member that needs some support when they speak out of guilt like that. Sometimes that may be an example of that. And so then I also have an idea I just want to pass on to everyone. I call it filling in the gap. And that just means that our typical assessments fail us, and we do not get to know people as good as we could. And we tend to find out things about residents after the fact. And my challenge is to find it out before. So one example is, let's say you keep finding someone on the floor. And so that we have to call it a fall, especially if it was unwitnessed. And let's say it turns out in talking to the family, you find out, oh, grandma loves to get on the floor for various reasons, like to pray or just to sit, like some Asian cultures sit on the floor more. And ideally, what if our process found out those things ahead of time? Like somehow you found out if someone liked to spend time on the floor. That would be excellent assessment and learning people. And so an idea that I call filling in the gap comes after listening to a friend who took care of her mom who lived with the dementia. When the mom had to move to assisted living, my friend just naturally wrote out everything. Here's everything you're going to need to know about my mom, from one care partner to the next. And I realized she handed off the care plan, everyone. And so don't make more forms, just go with that idea. Whether a family member wants to write it all out or not, just ask more questions, get more detail. If write it down yourself while they talk, you get the idea. Just tell me more about your mom, and then fill in that gap that even our own assessments create. And then another idea is this, everyone, and this, I need family members' help with this as well. If I work in a nursing home and I say to you, the family member, hey, family member, what do you want? What do you want for your mom? Do you realize that's actually the wrong question? Because we are supposed to honor what the person wants. We want to try to get into the head, even the person living with dementia. And so think of it as reframing again to the person. And instead we would say, hey, daughter, what would your mom say she wants? How did your mom live with her diabetes all these years? How did she handle it when there was birthday cake to be eaten, So if we all reframe it to the person again, we want to do what the person prefers, what they want, what their goals are, not ours, whether we're the professional or the family member. Then here's another very interesting point I'd love to show everyone. In the new federal regulations for nursing homes, and they're about 5 years old now, came out in 2016, under resident rights, where it talks about being treated with respect and dignity and giving a quality of life and recognizing individuality, some of my favorite words. Did you know it also says that the nursing home must protect and promote the rights of the resident? Protect and promote, not just tell them about their rights. That's stronger than it was before. And look at this, the residents' wishes and preferences must be considered in the exercise of rights by the representative. So again, do you see that reframing? It's not what the family member exactly wants. It's got to be what the resident wants. And I'm being gutsy saying that in front of some family members, and would love to know what you think. And then another idea I would share is what I call expectancy. So if you think of those of us that now care for a mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, we don't know them. We're basically strangers. And if I ran a nursing home, I would love to work on this idea. And that would be that we sort of place almost an expectancy on families to help us get to know this person better. And one thing I'm thinking of is to fill their room with things that tell us about them. Lots of pictures, lots of artifacts from their life. In fact, the federal reg says that residents should be able to use personal belongings to the extent possible. And in our movement, this is something we promote, that whatever is in the room can help us learn the person, let alone create comfort for this person living in a new and strange environment. And so I want to show you these photos. This is from 2001. This home in Missouri really went out of its way to invite people to do this. Notice the woman's own quilt and her own bed even. And this home committed to helping residents have their own furniture. And if it wasn't flame retardant like it needs to be, they actually committed to making it flame retardant. This is the big, amazing point. They would, like there are sprays and dips that you can make a quilt flame retardant, and then you only can wash it so many times and you got to do it again. Similar with furniture, and they committed to doing that. I think that's amazing. And then the next photos, again, they just tell you lots about her, and I just love it. There's her stack of magazines, her fridge her fish tank, her fan, her clock, her TV, her plants. And do any of you see anything medical in any of these pictures? If you look, it's kind of like I spy. Can you see anything medical? I'll ask Paula and Kathy. There's one medical thing. Anyone see it? Poor Kathy. I'm asking you to look really close, Kathy.
There's some sort of call.
Well, actually, keep looking. There's a little table, like a tray table, and on the table is a nebulizer. And here's why I point this out, everybody. I remember 20 years ago when I first started learning about culture change, people pointed out that most times the room only shows you what's wrong with the person. All you see is the nebulizer, usually, right? And all we see is what's wrong. And then this is a great example of a room that shows us all about the person, and we barely see what's wrong medically. Isn't that great? It's a wonderful example of what we're trying to get at here. All right. And then I want to just mention a couple ideas I would give to families if I could. Every time you visit Paula or any family member listening, I just have a passion about helping people get outside. You know, if you think about living inside, we all live in a building most of our life, right? But you and I can go out when we want. And now you live in an institution. They can't just take you out, even though they might want to, whenever whenever they want to. I'm thinking of staff members. So when a relative is there, and I would pass it on to your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, and are you ready for this? Even if it's cold. Now, I don't mean force people to go outside, but don't forget, people who have lived in Wyoming their whole life, they know the cold. They can handle it if they want to go out there, right? And I just realized just going outside could be the event itself. You know how you kind of get ready to go out in the cold and wrap up and then take a deep breath and here we go. And okay, Dad, are you okay? You still want to be out here? You want to go back in? It's okay. Nope. Let's go around the parking lot, maybe around the block. You know what I mean? And then when you come in, it's so much fun to have something hot to drink and sit by the fire if there is one. And so I just share that idea. You can help make that happen when you are visiting. And of course, outside of COVID restrictions. And then maybe you could also be looking at photos together. If I was a family member of someone living in an institution, I would bring buckets, boxes of photos. And when you're together, look at the photos, get dates, get stories, this is your chance. And you'll regret it if you don't, right? And even with the dementia, maybe someone you never know when there's a lucid moment and there's stories you haven't heard or dates or names, and it could be so cool. You could also be bringing special items, artifacts, things from your mom's life that maybe don't live with her, but you could bring them and take them, or better yet, bring them and leave them. You could also utilize curio cabinets where you can lock things if you feel that's necessary. I think families could probably also help us to learn people's music. What's the favorite songs, familiar songs? Help us get the playlist, help us get the CDs, whatever it is, right? Help us find the LP records. And then I also would love to give the idea that maybe family members could be a volunteer with your mom or dad. And here's my favorite example ever. I remember hearing of a husband who came to see his wife every day, and she was, less able to do things. So together, he volunteered both of them to set up communion, for instance, once a week, but it was the team. Isn't that cool? And so maybe pull in your relative who lives there that way. Another great idea from the culture change movement is reminding family members that if your mom, dad, grandma, grandpa was famous for some sort of food, whether it's grilling, the guy's grilling, or grandma making her cinnamon rolls, I want to remind you that a beautiful way to honor someone is to help them continue to be famous for these things. And so sometimes a nursing home has an activity kitchen, sometimes, not always, but most times they do have what is usually called like a therapy apartment. So if people are getting therapy, there tends to be a a mock apartment to practice in, right? And so some teams have just put an open schedule on the door, sign up for a time, and they invite family members to help mom bake her cinnamon rolls if you want to. And then therapists sign up for times, as well as families or residents or visitors or whoever. And then also the idea then, similarly, I kind of said this already, recruiting. This is an artifact, recruiting family members to be volunteers. And if you do that, everyone, I would recommend creating a list of potential volunteer jobs, of course. And ta-da, there's mine. And we have friends on the line, everybody. We have friends in the Wyoming project, Culture Change Project. And so guys, if you have any questions or things you would love to pose to a family member coming up, and I'd like to now introduce Kathy Laurenhue. Get this, Kathy is the CEO of her company called Wiser Now, Inc. How cool is that? But CEO does not stand for what you think it might stand for. It stands for, say it, Kathy, the Chief
Enthusiasm Officer, because I'm enthusiastic. Yes.
I love it. And I'll let her please tell us more. Kathy, I've invited her to tell us, everyone, what she has available to help us all in this journey. But she really seeks to give ideas that are both practical and joyful. And now I'd like Kathy to respond to anything I shared first, to add to it. And then I've asked Kathy to share some of her ideas. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Carmen. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I have to explain that I recently had eye surgery, so I'm trying to just really
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it. It's what I'm trying to do. So everything you said makes sense. I have to apologize right at the beginning to say that I'm going to use the word loved one because I struggle so much with how to describe the person, because they are a loved one. Unfortunately, it sounds like you're the funeral director, and I don't want to be that, but I didn't have another word for it, so I've used it a few times. Okay. But language is important. So I almost always say people living with dementia, not people with dementia, because it's important that they are living, they're in the present, they're dealing with it. And I do use humor as often as I can. You have to be very careful about using that, because you have to calm things down a lot sometimes before you can use humor. But you can also reframe things so that they see things in a little bit of a different light. So they're so worried that you're not taking good care of their loved one, and the more you can alleviate that worry, the more important it is. But you have to start from an understanding that they have a fear. It's not about they don't think you're competent. They have a fear, and it's about family members who feel so guilty because they could not do it all. You have half a dozen people who are caring for that person, but they wanted to do it all, and they feel guilty that they weren't able to do it all. So they're coming from a difficult place. And if we start with that understanding of them, it's a lot easier to deal with all the things they're dealing with. But I try to keep things lighthearted. So can we just go ahead and I will start doing my things.
Wonderful.
Okay. I'm going to give you helpful resource tools, I hope. And then I want you to know that families now come in many different stripes. And I say that very specifically because we aren't what we used to be. The nuclear family is not around too much anymore, and there are always various tensions. So then it's important to keep in mind that when dealing with families, it's wise to realize that the outside, no matter how hard you try, you're going to get, things are not always going to go smoothly. But over time, things do smooth out. So if you have a bad day, don't say that that's going to be, don't think it's going to be forever. And then
that's good.
I want to reiterate what Carmen was saying about getting outdoors. I am such a strong believer in getting people outdoors as often as you can. It's very important for them to, partly because it gives them a positive experience. For everyone gets positive experience if they're outdoors, because getting outdoors is a nurturing thing to do. Nature nurtures, and the more that we can get outdoors, we naturally have our mood lifted. Well, maybe not if it's storming, but generally we have our moods lifted. And then if they can't go out for a walk in the park, can they do a chore, eat a snack, or appreciate the flowers? And then if they can't, can they get outdoor? Can they play an outdoor game with their loved one, or while one play it with that loved one? Sorry about using the loved one, but play that game with them, or while he or she watches. Because a lot of times they're happy to see their family having fun. They don't need to be part of it themselves, but they will love watching you have a good time playing croquet or horseshoes or whatever if they can't participate themselves. But do the family members know, or the friends know, where the equipment is? And do they know what the rules are for using it and for returning it, and maybe infection control when that's an issue? If they can't get outdoors, can they bring the outdoors in by planting seedlings or cutting and arranging flowers? If they can't get outdoors, can they bring in the outdoors in by building a birdhouse or maybe a bird feeder? And indoors or out, can they bring in a pet or help to feed or groom one of yours with the resident? So all those ways are things to bring indoors and out, but I have a lot more to share. Sometimes getting together is enhanced by ordinary things that we enjoy doing, like knitting or another hobby or playing a game that they've always enjoyed. On the following pages, it says, but it's really slides, are examples of games. I'm going to show you a bunch of the games that can be used intergenerationally and adapted for people living with dementia. So I want to know, first of all, if you have those games, and do you make them available for the families and friends when they come to visit? Because you want the families to have fun. So here's a bunch of things that I think are great to get started. I'm giving you a whole range of things. First of all, I like people to move if they possibly can. So maybe they can't play croquet, but they can do some sort of movement. So for instance, I love these yarn balls. They are just made of yarn. So you can hit people pretty hard with them and there's nothing that you can do to hurt them. They are, because they're made of yarn, they are washable. You just throw them in the washing machine. And they're comfy to hold and hold on to. And I'm very big on using hands, and so these stress balls are really good exercise. And if you hand them a heart, you say, here's my heart for you, or here's a smile for you. So it's a nice way of using that. And on your left on the screen is an inflatable toss game. So there's cornhole and a lot of other toss games, but this one just amuses me. Again, I'm always looking for, how do we have fun? How do we bring humor into it? So this is a piece of Swiss cheese. It's all inflated, of course, and two little mouse things that you toss into it and try to make points that way. And then there are games that encourage conversation. A lot of you are probably familiar with games like Fact or Crap or Shake Out the Truth. Those have been around for a really long time. Fact or Crap gives you a chance to, you read a sentence and you say, is that true or not true, fact or crap? And so you have a 50% chance of getting it right. And that's always good, especially when you're working with children or people living with dementia who are a little concerned about getting it right. Shake Out the Truth is just their responses to things. The one I want to show you, if you are not familiar with it, is Imagine If. Imagine If is a game where you're given these cards and you fill in the blank of your spouse or your sibling or somebody or other that you're close to. And you say, what if that person, imagine if that person, in this case was a car. And what kind of car would that person be? And they always give you 6 choices. Now, if you're dealing with children or people living with dementia, and I don't want to compare them, but in terms of their ability to maybe keep a lot of things in their mind and think things through, sometimes it works to do the comparison. I want to be sure you understand they can be done intergenerationally. But a person living with dementia probably can't remember 6 things. So but you might say, would they have a family car, or would they have a pickup truck? Or would they really want a Rolls Royce and live in luxury? And so imagine if they were this person, or do they just want to have fun and have a dune buggy? So you give them a couple of choices and you say, what do they think? And the conversation comes because the family members or the friends say, oh, no, I think this person would like this instead, or this instead of that. And so you start having conversation, and it's just fun because you're just imagining it. Nobody's wrong in this, you just imagine it. So let me show you some other things. You can also start a conversation with books of questions. One way that you can always have a conversation with somebody is you ask something about their experiences, their opinions, or their advice. Those three things are always something that you can talk about. So did you ever, when you're working with people with dementia, you do say, do you remember? You don't say that. But if you say, did you ever, they can say yes or no. And we just accept whatever they say. And it's okay to do it that way. Do you prefer hot dogs or hamburgers? You know, whatever you want to fill in those blanks with. What do you think I should do about? And get their advice about things. But if you don't know how to fill in those blanks, or if you run out of things to talk about that way, there are books to help. So the conversation pieces and if both are just books of questions, things that you ask. Conversation pieces will ask something like, if there were one holiday out of the year that had to be repeated twice, which holiday would you choose? What would you like to celebrate twice? If we'll have questions, if you could right now transport yourself to any place in the world, where would that be? So those are kind of questions that you can enjoy as well. I am a little cautious about if, because there's a lot of negative questions in that. So you really have to look them over first and choose those questions carefully before you do them. Next. The other thing I want to make a point about is conversation isn't always necessary. Many residents, especially those living with dementia, find making conversation very difficult, but they like to hear your voice. Again, you're their loved one, somebody they love very much, they care about, and they want to hear your voices. It means a lot to them to hear your voices. So you can read aloud to them and read poetry. You can read a number of other things. I'll share a couple of other things you can do with them. So they don't always have to make conversation, but you can read aloud to them and bring in something that you want to read aloud to, or I'll show you some things that you might do. Next. Scramble Squares is one of my favorite adaptable puzzles. And I have to say that it has so many different ways that you can play this. And I have written a handout that if you just write to me at Kathy@wisernow.com, I will be glad to send you the handout about how all the ways to adapt it. But if you can see there, Scramble Squares is a series of 9 squares, 4 by 4 inches. And the idea is to match all the sides, so they all match. And if you look at the 2 outer ones, they don't match. If you have to look carefully at the quilt one, because they're supposed to, all the flowers are supposed to match the bottoms to the tops, and there should be a flower pot underneath all of them, and there are not. But it looks good that way. It's still interesting. The backgrounds are strong, so that makes a difference. So one of the ways to adapt it is to play with just 4 pieces, and then you can solve the puzzle much more easily. It is very tough to solve these. So you can play it in other ways, by putting them in a big long row, by playing it like dominoes, where you just put one where it matches, whatever. Anyway, I have a handout for that. If you'd like it, write to me at Kathy@wisernow.com. It's really cool. There's over 100 versions of this, so there's so many interests that you can pursue this way. And then there are other adaptable word games. And you may have these. You may have bananagrams. A lot of people do. And bananagrams is basically Scrabble without the board and without any points, which can be very confusing for people as they age. But bananagrams can be slip and slide all over the place. So the one I like better is Upwards. And it's gone through a bunch of iterations. So this might not be the cover that they're currently using. But the idea is that there's kind of a slotted board. And then there are all these pieces that can fit into the slot board. So you can make a word like, let's say you make cave, the word cave there. And then you add another piece and you put it on top of that piece so that you make another word like save. And you can keep making rhyming words like that, which is really good. Again, people living with dementia can make rhymes very easily. And so it's a way for them to continue to have success by playing these particular games. There's a lot of adaptations for that. I have to say, I'm rushing through all these. I actually do a webinar that's hours long about all of these kinds of things, but let's go on to the next. These are games which you may be familiar with. Blockus is a game that I like because of all the pieces in it. It's kind of a mess having all those pieces sometimes, but I I like it because you can just make designs. It's a game and there's a strategy and all that. But if you just have fun making designs, that's great. Then there's Spot It, in which it's just round discs of cards and with pictures on them. And if you take any two cards, you have to find the match. And there's only one thing that matches on each card, but you have to find it. There's a lot of ways to adapt that as well and play it in different ways. I also have a handout for that. So I like that game because it's very handy, it's very easy, something you can do. And if it doesn't work, you play it a different way. Sometimes you just say, let's find all the things that are purple on this card, or let's find everything that is black and white on this card, and do it that way. The two other games there, I'm sure you're familiar with Connect 4, but people I've found, particularly living with dementia, they don't care about the winning and losing. They like slotting things. They like putting things in slots. And so they enjoy just putting the things in the slots. And if you're unfamiliar with Goblet, it's the same sort of thing. It is, you get, as you see, it's like tic-tac-toe, but it's tic-tac-toe on steroids. Mm-hmm. It's 4 things. You have to get 4 in a row, not 3. So there's no centerpiece that kind of gives you a leg up. You have to get 4 in a row. And everybody is given 12 pieces, 3 each of 4 different size pieces, one that fits into another. So if you put down your smallest piece in place, your opponent can then put a larger piece over that. And if you want to outdo him again, you put your larger piece on. But nobody has more than 3 pieces of any size. So you can't ever get 4 in a row by just using your biggest pieces. There's a lot of strategy involved. It's a good game for people generally. But when you're dealing with people who are living with dementia, it feels really good to hold those pieces. They're wooden, they're rounded, they just feel good in the hands. And again, people like to slot them together. So there's adaptations always. And then, can visitors access supplies for simple art projects? One of the things that I like to do is if I just give people a blank piece of paper, they often don't know what to do with it, but I'll put a couple lines on it and they will say they'll make it into a book or a candle or a box or a Pez dispenser, any kind of thing that they choose to. But there are a couple of books that I like, and they're called Do You Doodle or Oodles of Doodles, by Nicholas Catlow. And you can see, because I took pictures of a couple pages, they give you part of a picture and then you have to fill in. Can you make balloons for this little girl here? And can you make fireworks for the other group there? Just draw them. So it gives you a chance to draw something else that's pretty simple usually. And there's no wrong way of doing it. And people of all ages enjoy doing it. They may be cartoonish characters, but people like to do this kind of thing so they can have fun. If they enjoy adult coloring, that's great, and you should do it, absolutely. But this gives them a chance to use their imagination. And the more you use your imagination, the better your brain is being exercised. So then, another idea for crafts for families, and you may have other things that you do, but this is just one quick exercise, is to do paint on leaves with chalk painting. And you can use artificial leaves. That maple leaf is an artificial leaf, and the ones on the right are just a branch that I took off of something. And you can draw with chalk on them. And chalk painting pens can come in various colors, but it's a very simple art project. It doesn't make a lot of mess. It's not difficult to get out the supplies and put them away. There's lots of things like that you can also do. So next, a lot of your communities subscribe to Activity Connection. If you don't, I highly recommend it. I do a lot of writing for them, and I think they're terrific. They have a bunch of things that they produce, one of which is a newsletter, and the other is the Daily Chronicle and the Daily Chronicle Extra, all of which are things you can print out, and they give you instant things that you can read aloud, like I suggested before. So you don't have to think up what kind of poetry or whatever you might want to get. These are just all short things, and a lot of it is extremely interesting, and so it's a good thing to read. And the next one is another Activity Connection thing. They have loads and loads, and I do mean loads, like dozens and dozens every month rather, of games that you can do that are word games that can be printed out, and you can leave those. I often suggest they leave them at the reception desk. So when people come by, they can pick one up and they have something to do with the person that they are visiting. So wacky wordies are these kinds of things where you have to figure out what does it say in the box. So tunnel with a chandelier after it means the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay by me is okay and me next to each other, and day in, day out is the third in that row, and short supply is the fourth in that row. Next one. And then I have some things that I want to share very quickly. Wiser Now offers a variety of resources. One of them is Wiser Now Wednesday, and it's an award-winning, I have to say, I'm proud of that. It's free, it's downloadable, it's printable, and it's lighthearted. It's a newsletter that each week provides a theme-related quote, fun facts, quirky observations, discussion questions, and either a word or a trivia quiz. And what you're seeing illustrations of here are from our two artists that I highlighted to feature in August when it was Toilet Paper Roll Craft Month. Now you may think that Toilet Paper Craft Month isn't a real thing, but it is. And these are people who took it to a new level, and I think they're very interesting. So I wrote about these particular artists. Next slide. So that's Wiser Now Wednesday. And then what's left is another book that I wrote. Is just puzzles, and I like these puzzles very well too. You have a grid of material, a grid of words, and the idea is to cross out all the words that are given in the list. So the first one is cross off all the words that have to do with being cold, and all the words that are fall colors. And when you cross out everything on the clue, you'll have an inspiring quote or a funny quote left over. So I've created a book of all of those kinds of puzzles, which is inexpensive and easy to get and give to families as well. So next, I also have written a book called Creating Delight, and this is mostly about creating what I call smile trees or gratitude trees, but they aren't necessarily trees. I just wanted to show you two examples here. One is it's a wall full of ivy covered with notes on it, and inside the notes are things like, this is my favorite song, or this person makes me sing, or anything we want to say about music. So that's one type. And then the other type is an indoor kind of thing where we put out a few little dried eucalyptus things in it, and then we put some googly-eyed birds on it. And on the other side of the birds, it will talk about people. A little bird told me that you're wonderful, and you praise a particular person on staff or another friend or something like that, or how I admire you, or just this person is the wind beneath my wings. So there's lots of different ways that you can use it as metaphors. Next, I also take a lot of the material I've talked about in other places and put them into slideshows. This is called Fascinated by Fall, and it's just visually very interesting. So those can be shown on an iPad or large screen TV, and you can make those available to to the people who visit you. And the next one, I have also written two books about dementia, and believe it or not, they are fairly lighthearted. They're easy to read, they're very family friendly, but they give practical information, and also I try to do things interesting. So when I talk about continence care, I talk about you can't be anal about that. Just I try to do lighthearted things in it. Okay, so next slide. That's me. That's such a fast thing of doing it, but I'm very aware of time. So contact me, Kathy@wisernow.com. Look at my website, wisernow.com. Sign up there for free Wiser Now Wednesday. Check out my other websites there and some of my blogs and more information about me. Thank you so much for all this time, the time you've given me to do this, but I hope this is lots of ideas of things that you can do with families and tell families about. Give them tools. They want to have fun when they visit their loved one. They don't want to talk about all the things that are wrong in the world or in their little world. They want to have a good time. And I hope these ideas have given you good ways to do that.
Woo, Kathy. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, everyone. It's like we're in a race.
Yes.
That's my fault, but I hope it's worth it, everyone. And I asked Kathy to tell you all about everything she has to offer everyone. She's doing this for free today. there's no continuing education credit rules. And I love it when you can hear from the author what resources are out there. So thank you, Kathy, for giving of
Thank you,
yourself to
Carmen.
us today and for
My
all you've
pleasure.
always done. And please, everyone, take advantage of some of her good things and great ideas, and give her some feedback sometime, or let me know too, and I can pass on. So
Thank you.
now, yes, thank you, Kathy. I'd like to introduce Paula Bowling. She is a family member. Woohoo! We have a family member on the family member webinar. And her mother, I believe, lives at South Lincoln Nursing Center in, help me pronounce it.
Kemmer.
You just say Kemmer,
That's
right?
yeah, right.
Okay. And I found out something famous, everyone, about Kemmer. Tell them, Paula.
We are
It's
the
known
home
for.
of JCPenney.
Woo, that's so cool. And Paula, we really want to thank you for doing this with us today. And we kind of rushed so that you could have more time, really. So now you, please take your time. I saw you taking notes. We really love a family member's perspective now. Do these ideas make sense or not? Did they prompt you to think of other things? Anything you would like to share, we really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Carmen. Let's see. I was going to just kind of quickly comment on a couple of things that
Yes,
that both you and Kathy had said, and I do notice here that a lot of times they do say, "What would your mom like to do?" And I thought that was really kind of cool, because it's like, I don't care what my mom wants to do. We want her to do this, but it's like, really, they always say, like, what does your mom want to do? So I think that's really cool. Yeah. And this is kind of interesting about the personal belongings and all the things on the wall, because when my mom went to the nursing home, we had to be so careful about what we took there, because the more we took from home, the more permanent place it was for her. And she knew she was coming out. And if you take all this stuff from home, that meant she was never coming out. So we are still very careful what we actually take her there. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, the going outside thing. That is just awesome. My mother is an outside person. She loves it. And in the spring, they take them outside to plant flowers in these little flower boxes or whatever. She loves it. She loves to go outside and water them. She loves to be outside. And it's just so important to her that she can. And I think they do have limited activities outside, but she does love that. So that was kind of cool. And then, the guilty thing. Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit more when I kind of talk about a couple of the things that I had on my list. Oh, the pet issue. Yeah, they'd had pets there. And I do think that those people love pets, but evidently we've had an issue, maybe if someone got bit or they were afraid they're going to get bit or something. So that kind of ended the pet issue, but it was kind of sad because I think the people really loved the pets. The games. The games are such a great idea. We've got my mom some game books, and of course, here in Kemmer, we haven't been able to go into the nursing home since last March. So it's been, year and a half now. We have not been inside. So I know that the puzzles went away. They used to have a lot of puzzles in there people could work on. Well, those had to go away. I don't know, other than bingo, I don't know what other games maybe they play, because she does talk about that she goes to do bingo. But used to be, before the COVID stuff, there was a family in there, or I think it was a lady or a man, but she had brothers or sisters that came from another town and brought games for people to play, and they'd go out and play at these tables, and those people loved them. They loved them. I mean, so these game things I just think are really great. And even with our activity books, when we used to be able to go in there, we'd take those out and work through some of those things with mom, which I thought was really a good thing. So I thought the game thing the activities was really, really good. Okay, so that's the comments I had about the things that you two ladies said. So my question was, do you have my question there?
No.
It's hard to get families to come and do things and get them involved.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think like, well, you know what? It's not an issue for me. So what am I going to talk about here? So I actually called some friends of mine that had parents there at one time, or maybe still have parents there, to see kind of, some of their feelings about how the problems with going there. And one of the biggest things that people had was the guilt feeling, which you guys did talk about. And they were just felt very guilty for having to put their parents in there, that they didn't have the ability to take care of them themselves. And then it was really hard for them to go see them afterwards because they were deteriorating and they really didn't want to see their parents deteriorate. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, a reason why people don't like to go there, I guess. We used to have something they call the family dinners here. And when I told my family about it, the first one they were having after my mom got in there, oh my gosh, everybody wanted to go. And it's like, hey, well, we have to limit it because, you know, we can't take up the whole nursing home with just our family because we have a lot of family in the area. But that was something they loved, and they were so excited to get the next one put on their calendar because it was just, they just had a great time. And there were people that didn't have family members there, which my family knew some of them. So they invited them to sit at our table with us. So it was really kind of cool.
Beautiful.
Let's see. So another reason maybe people wouldn't get involved or don't want to go there to do things is maybe the family doesn't live close by, because in our area, we do have people from surrounding towns, and a lot of people are busy, a lot of people work. And so we're thinking that maybe the families just can't make it over here to see their loved ones or whoever in the center. So thinking maybe that would be a good reason for that. Again, maybe we thought that when I was thinking about it, that, you know, the reason the person is in the home is because their family couldn't take care of them at home. Maybe the family isn't well enough to hardly take care of themselves, let alone try to get out and go to the center and see people. So thinking maybe that's another reason that they didn't have them. Oh, and then back to the family dinners, we thought for the families that didn't come, I can't remember how they notified us now because it was so long ago. I don't know if they sent us a letter in the mail saying family dinner was coming up, or it came out with our monthly newsletter. I don't remember. But maybe besides sending out the notification, maybe someone could take a few minutes and just call the people that aren't responding and say, hey, you know, we'd love to have you come, and we want you to come and eat dinner with us and have fun or whatever. Maybe provide some kind of entertainment or something. And I think ours did. The ones I was at, they had someone played the piano. In fact, one of my family members played the piano for a little bit, and I can't remember the other one, but I thought it was pretty good. And then, one person said this, which I thought was kind of interesting, but I think it happens, is they used to go there all the time and see their family member. And then I can't remember what the family member had, if it was like diabetes or something where they had a special diet anyway. And so every time they'd be there when they got ready to eat, the food on the tray, there was always food that that person wasn't supposed to eat. And so the family member just got really, really upset and just decided they couldn't deal with it anymore. They did not want to see that they were giving the family member the wrong kind of food. And then I guess when they talked to the family member would say, oh yeah, well, I didn't feel good today, so they just brought me crackers. Well, he couldn't have crackers because, I don't know, he was diabetes or whatever it was. So they got really discouraged about going there and even talking to the person. So that was kind of a bad one. And then I guess that was it, because then I had the guilt and they just didn't want to see him deteriorate. So those were kind of my things of like maybe why people don't want to go there and why it's kind of hard to get them involved in different things.
Yeah, thank you. That was very informative. Now, I would like to ask our crowd listening, if you guys could please interact. I don't know if I can maybe unmute you. I know Brenda Hancock and folks from Granite Rehab and Jill Holtz and Pam Schrecher are here. And we have a hand up too, Brenda. Oh, good. I'm allowing you all to talk. Brenda, did you have a comment?
I pushed that button by mistake. Just saying, I was actually looking for the chat box because I wanted to point out the nebulizer, but you got the answer before I could type it out. So
Go Brenda, go Brenda.
So, yeah, but I will say this: we've been kind of having a little discussion here in the office together, and I absolutely love the idea of having things available for people to do when they come and visit, because so often, especially right now, I mean, visitation is so hard. You know, we have visits, we don't have visits. Somebody tests positive, no visits. Then we have visits, then we don't have visits. Sometimes it's like a day apart, you know, and then,
Yep.
you know, they have to be limited to the lobby and just all crazy things. And so sometimes I think they just sit and kind of stare at each other. Well, they're here to see mom, but they've run out of things to say. But to have things just available, random things that they could do, and actually enjoy their time together is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
Yay. Good. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Brenda. Could I hear from anyone from Granite or Jill as a former administrator, and Pam, activity directors on the line? We'd love to gather more ideas if you're having some, and or questions for anybody. And hey, Pam.
I guess the thing that I'm listening to all of this, and it is so exciting, the things that are possible to do. But I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling thinking, okay, how can I make this happen with all the regulations that we have to dance around with COVID? And that is what just breaks my heart. I want the families to come in and eat, but they're not allowed to have their masks off. I want the families to come in and play games, but we're supposed to keep 6-foot distancing. You know, that's what makes me want to cry, because it's like, how can we do these things, but yet follow the standards that the CMS and that's around there. I don't know. I just need some guidance that way.
Well, I'm not the expert on this, guys. We could just all think together for a moment. One idea crossing my mind got everybody. If it's a nice day, it's a sunny day, could a family member meet outside at the picnic table, one end to the other end? Brenda, anybody? Jill? Jill, you know the rules probably quite a bit right now. What do you
Well,
think?
we are allowed to have them come in to our it's not our facility, it is our care center. But anyway, they can come in and we let them go outside. But, I was even thinking, have good food. I wanted to have a family council where we had a cookout for everyone. And I got it, kind of got quashed because it was like, well, we can't eat. So, okay. So what do we do? It's a struggle, I think, to try to figure out. I'm just praying it goes away so that we can get back to normal one day.
Me too.
I'm with
Just
you.
a thought.
Yeah.
And I would say that kind of echo on that as well, is that they, they can go outside. They still have to have a mask on. And they can't, you can't bring in food for your visit, because then you have to take your mask off. It is just, it all goes against the grain. It just really goes against the grain of all the changes that I've seen over my career in long-term care. All of these COVID rules go against what we've tried to do for so long. And it is a little disheartening. So I certainly understand what you're saying. But can they go outside? Yes. Can they take their mask off outside? No, they cannot. So
Wow.
And can they do anything that's socially distanced outside? I mean, if they played a toss game of some kind, can they stay socially distant? And the family members sitting nearby, and they still enjoy them doing some sort of ring toss or whatever during that, or cornhole or something like that. Are there ways around it? And I guess it's just a matter of brainstorming of, yes, there's a lot of obstacles and we can't overcome all of them, but are there some little ways we can work around them? Because I feel for you, it's so hard. And you're right, everything you've been taught to do and want to do, so much of it gets impossible to do at this time. But keep on brainstorming, keep looking for ways around adaptations that you might make.
Nice. Be creative, everybody. That's all we got, right? So I just want to thank our 5 homes that are in the first year of the Culture Change Project. Most of you are on the line: Powell Valley, Star Valley, South Lincoln, Granite, and Polaris. And if you're interested, it shows you the culture change practices they are implementing. It's on the handout. I wish I had more time, but it's very exciting. I want to thank you all for being in this project. And then we better close out by announcing our next free webinar. All people are invited, everyone. If you want to keep spreading this, Paula, to your own family, anyone listening, we'd love to get more families listening. How about residents maybe who might be interested in listening? And definitely as many of your team as possible. And we are going to look at all the beautiful ways to honor people's sleep. We know sleep is healthy. We are all about ideas of not interrupting sleep so much during the night, not waking people up in the morning by having things like open dining, and also learning what people need for a good night's sleep. It's just so exciting. And that will be our topic next month, October 22nd. And this is so fun. I love sharing our big goals for the Wyoming Culture Change Coalition. I didn't make these up, the committee did. I just love it though. Our goal is that every person working in a Wyoming nursing home, there's 38 nursing homes, is learning about culture change. I'm not sure it's happening yet, but wouldn't that be great? All the more reason to share the link to the live shows, the link to the recording. I'll be sending that out now. And our next big goal, guess what, is that anyone living in a Wyoming nursing home is not woken up by the institutional schedule, and instead their body decides when it's had enough rest, and then it wakes up. If you're interested in joining our committee, let me know. And then we're like Pam mentioned, we're working on language. Pam is famous for a game that they're doing at Star Valley, everyone. If you say the word, let's say facility, and that's a word we're trying to get rid of, you lose a pin. And if you're the one that notices they said the word we're trying not to say, then you get the pin. So I love sharing your idea, Pam. Thank you for that. And just some last takeaways. I know it's tough out there, but just like Kathy said, be creative. Don't take no for an answer. Maybe just talk for a moment, teams, right now on what's one or two ideas to involve families more. Is it a council or not? Anything else we talked about today? How can you move towards partnership? How can you encourage families, teach them some of the stuff? Pass on our webinar, guys, to all your families. Get their ideas, encourage them that idea of living life together. And I'll just close with, let's all emphasize the life that people are living in the nursing homes more than the care that they're receiving and that we are giving. And with that, I really want to thank you, Kathy Laurenhue and Paula Bowling, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. It was
Bye.
great. Thank you. Thank you.